Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're looking for a good laugh in these dark and dreary times, and if you like a bit of poopy humor, please read The Ladies' Dressing Room by Jonathan Swift. This poem, it cracks me up. Everything about it, even reading it today, I still just love how it's so dense. It's joke after joke, and it really manages to conjure quite an image. For something written back in 1732, it's really quite descriptive. I think it might even make you sick in your mouth, but if you can get through. I think Jonathan Swift has something very interesting to say here about how we humans view ourselves in relation to how we create and deal with our waste. What do I mean by that? So let's start by laying out some context. If the name Jonathan Swift sounds familiar, he also wrote Gulliver's Travels and A Modest Proposal. Those are probably his most famous writings, and A Modest Proposal has been quoted recently in social media. So he was a satirical writer back in the Georgian era. He was Anglo-Irish, and he is incredibly cheeky. As I mentioned before, some of the things that he wrote can even make you clutch your pearls today. He had a lot of commentary about society, politics, and he even spoofed some of the prominent figures of the day, which I think you can imagine caused quite a stir. Now, The Ladies' Dressing Room, I really recommend you pause this video and go read it. It is indeed hilarious, but otherwise I am going to offer a little brief description here. So Swift describes a high-class lady called Celia who has just gotten ready for her social engagement, which it seems is a date with a man called Strephon. And Strephon steals away to the lady's chamber to find no one there, but he sees all the mess that has been left behind from her dressing. And he describes dirty clothes, makeup and hairbrushes caked with grime, and even a dirty mirror. Oh! And they're all described in this incredible detail, and it really paints a picture with words. Strephon soon finds himself utterly disgusted at his discovery. He is mortified and physically sickened from the shocking fact that not only is Celia a human with human bodily functions, he's now disgusted by the sight of all women, having drawn back the curtain of the previously crafted illusion that women are always dainty, clean, and perfectly put together. So the usual reading of this text is a feminist reading, declaring that, you know, one of the things that leads to misogyny is this idea of not seeing women as humans, seeing them as that they should be picture perfect all the time, and in this case, perfectly clean and lacking in gross bodily functions. And I 100% agree. I mean, I think this is effectively the overt meaning that Jonathan Swift meant, and I think we can really read into that from the closing few lines where he says, "He would soon learn to think like me, and bless his ravished sight to see such order from confusion sprung, such gaudy tulips raised from dung." And I just want to make note of that because, you know, he's saying basically, as long as I get to enjoy the product of the ladies' dressing, I really don't care what goes on behind the scenes. And I think that that's really the message that he's sending here, at least overtly. However, I want to look at another aspect of this poem, which is how ideas of consumerism and beauty and how we generally deal with our waste. For one thing, Swift describes just mountains and mountains of grooming products and materials in Celia's bedroom, which speaks to me of an overly consumeristic approach to beauty. I think that is just as relevant today. And secondly, Spoiler alert, Stefan finds Celia's chamber pot, where he declares the unforgettable line, Celia, Celia, Celia shits. He finds it in her room. Obviously it's a chamber pot, which was the norm back then, but it got me thinking about this idea of how we deal with sewage and human waste, and I think how far we've strayed from what we should be doing. So let's unpack all of that for a moment here. Reading the poem, you'll notice that a lot of the beauty products that Swift mentions are a little unfamiliar to us, and it's a poem from like almost 300 years ago, so that is no surprise, but I think it harkens back to some of the makeup haul and collection videos that are posted every day on today's social media. Now, I have no problem with people doing self-care and taking care of their beauty, of course. But whenever I see influencers who have drawers and drawers of every shade of makeup and massive PR packages from other brands, or these Sephora hauls, like, all I can see is waste, mountains of plastic, mountains of waste, and mountains of doing too much. It's doing too much. Again, there's amazing beauty products out there, and we all have the right to enjoy our toilette. But I think we could all do with stepping back a little bit, finding products and routines that aren't utterly wasteful. What about reusable packaging or paper packaging? What about using less product, or those you can buy in bulk or plastic free? What about these incredible old-timey beauty recipes that your great-grandmother used that still work today? And in the poem, Stefan is disgusted by what he finds, and especially the dirt and grime surrounding it all. However, Swift makes a point to describe such an array of products and tools. I think he makes it clear that the hyper-consumerism and the unwavering need to have an image of perfection is indeed contributing to the issue here and the resulting disgust that we feel. Now, next, I need to discuss Celia shits. So luckily we don't have chamber pots anymore, but just hear me out, stick with me, okay? So during this time, you know, the Georgian period, upper class people would have a chamber pot to do their business, and this would get emptied by a servant. So just let that sink in for a second. You piss and shit in a bucket, and then someone else has to deal with it. So how disgusting and unnecessary is that? It makes me think of like potty training a toddler, right? It shouldn't be the norm. Now fast forward to today, people have figured out having a sewage system to get your waste as far away from you as possible is a good idea, at least in theory. And as we all know, these sewage systems leak into other waterways, and we don't deal with the sewage properly, and we waste perfectly good, clean water. So we still don't deal with our crap correctly. We may not have a servant handling your pot of poop, but the water treatment center and the people who work there have to deal with it. And honestly, I just think flushing toilets are so far from a more ecologically sound method of disposing of our waste. I know this is gonna rattle some cages. I know people are gonna be disgusted by this, but it is just a fact that outhouses and composting toilets are the way to go. We have the technology and the understanding to know this. And of course, it's worth noting there are right and wrong ways to do an outhouse, but it's a simple fact that when you do it properly, they are more eco-friendly. You no longer have to poison waterways, of course, if you have it positioned correctly and dug correctly. And you don't have to waste perfectly clean water. A well-dug outhouse that is moved every few years in the right spot is just more ecologically sound. And unlike Celia's shit, it's far from your bedroom, far from your house. It is buried. You don't have to look at it. And best of all, no one has to carry it out to the gutter to throw it away for you. And yet, here we are. We are disgusted by ourselves. We pick and pluck and shave, we tan and paint and color. We attempt to augment our existences, our physical manifestations. If we could all come to a place where we were a little bit more okay with our biological functions and all that comes with it, well, we would definitely save money from less consumerism, and we would be better for our planet by not polluting it with unnecessary products and our own shit. So this overconsumption and attempt to conceal our true forms creates and adds to this societal psychological repulsion of ourselves. In other words, we've normalized spending so much money and using numerous products to the point that anyone who prefers a more natural beauty approach is considered disgusting. And yet they're closer to their inescapable nature, and if you're the religious type, closer to the image that we were created in. And yes, of course, there's a fine line. We do need to groom ourselves. I'm not suggesting that we stop using soap and stop showering or anything extreme like that. I'm just wondering if an acceptance of our natural forms would make us happier and less susceptible to marketing strategies. And do what thou wilt. You know, I also realize that corporations are most responsible for the waste factor. I fully agree. But we choose how we respond to the marketing and the advances that are put upon us. And it also doesn't mean that our actions as a society in unison are not powerful in themselves. Can we do it? Can we love ourselves as human, as women, and love and be okay with our natural beauty? I wish so. Tell me what you think. Do you think we could do with less beauty industry waste, waste in general? Do you agree with my toilet hot take? Are you disgusted? Have you ever shit in an outhouse? Let me tell you, I gotta be honest, times where I've lived in or stayed in places that are more remote and have an outhouse, been some of the best times of my life. I've been so happy and healthy and taken some really good dumps in there. Just saying. So anyway, let me know what you think. Read the poem. Tell me what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. See you later.